Most people learning email marketing make the exact same mistake. They spend months trying to become experts before they ever get a client. And by the time they feel ready, they've lost all their momentum. Look, I'm going to show you how to land your first email marketing client in 30 days, even if you are a complete beginner. The exact positioning, the outreach templates, how to price yourself, and how to deliver without needing to be the best email marketer in the world. Let's get into it. The first part that we're going to talk about is getting good enough in 30 days. I want you to use what you think is a disadvantage as your advantage. You don't need to be an expert. Most brands pretty much have no email marketing in place, or if they do, it's just absolute trash. They're not prioritizing it, and they have no idea how much money that they actually losing every single month. So we need to get good enough, which is a 7 out of 10. This means understanding exactly what emails are going to ethically force people to beg us to take the head money, and then how to set up the key basic email flows that are going to make money for brands whilst they're sleeping, and also being able to talk with your chest and having confidence. Now, when I signed my first client, I knew just about how to write emails and load the bloody emails. That's it. Along the way, I then learned how to improve the quality of the emails. I got better at detecting problems and how to fix them, better at sales calls, and my confidence, that went through the roof because I was learning on the job, getting paid while I figured it out. That's the game. Now, in the first 30 days, you are only focused on learning the skill. This is where most people never actually do anything because they're so flipping hung up on just trying to be perfect. Like, we are not looking for mastery. We're not chasing that. We're not chasing perfection. We are looking for 7 out of 10. You're going to get better as time goes on and you put in more effort. The first skill is copywriting. Copy is around you all day long, and I don't want you to be intimidated by it either. It's just the words that we're going to use to ethically get people to do what we want, and that is to buy our shit. That's all we're doing. Then once we understand the basics, we can start using AI to basically cut our workload by 80% and then spend the other 20% just editing and making sure the copy slaps and converts. That's it. But here's the thing about AI. It's just a tool at the end of the day, right? It's not really ever going to be a replacement. Like, it still needs that human touch. And you can use AI to draft those emails, but if you don't understand what actually makes good copy versus bad copy, your clients are going to sniff that bullshit from a mile away. And this is why we need to get good enough to be able to identify, well, what is it that makes sense versus what doesn't? And then once you understand the principles, you could then feed that into AI. Now, these are the books that I personally would recommend that you need to get. So Cash Advertising or the Copywriter's Handbook, just pick one. You can buy these on Amazon or you can find free PDF versions online. The next skill is email marketing. The absolute best platform that we need for the type of brands we're reaching out to is Klaviyo. This is where we want to take the words that we've written and then build those out as emails to send to the brand's customers. The next skill is sales. We're not trying to be Jordan Belfort in Wolf of Wall Street, guys. We are just simply needing to understand the frameworks and principles of what gets prospects to take their wallet out and pay you for your services. That's it. Now, a few resources that I would recommend are the Founder-Led Revenue Growth channel on YouTube. This is run by an absolute savage called Mark Wayshak, and you can search looking at his oldest videos. That's where you're going to get the real value and the real source. And then I want you to watch these every single day. Immerse yourself in this stuff. Then there are a few books that I would recommend again. So Fanatical Prospecting, Never Split the Difference, and You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. Another pro tip, once you understand the basics, then we can feed this into like ChatGPT and we can role play with ChatGPT and ask it to analyze our sales calls and then rate us out of 10. So in terms of daily commitment, you need to be doing at least 1 hour after work every single day and then 2 to 3 hours on the weekend. Look, if we do the maths on that, we're looking at about 8 to 10 hours a week as a bare minimum for a lifetime of freedom. I want you to take that in. And look, you're never going to be ready, but it. Just do it anyway. Like, do you think I was ready to record this YouTube video? No, but here we are at the end of the day. Now I want to teach you how to position yourself as someone with 0 clients to eventually then getting clients. Positioning is absolutely everything. No one wants to hire a newbie seeking clients. So here's the best way to ethically position yourself as an expert, even if you don't have any experience. You want to call yourself yourself and refer to yourself as an email marketing consultant that works with a select number of brands. Select brands. That implies that we are handpicking the brands that we want to work with. And you can see how there is no mention of being new here, right? You should not be referring to yourself as a freelancer or that you run a business or an agency. This helps to feel more personal and high leverage. Again, as I said in the beginning of this video, use what you think is your disadvantage as an advantage. Now, contrary to popular belief, I've done mass messaging and I've also done one-to-one. I have categorically, hands down, no debate, always found to have better results when I have sent personalized one-to-one messages. Yeah, it might not be scalable, but it's where you stand out because the bar is truly in hell, because no one can be bothered at the end of the day. And this is where you use this and it becomes your superpower. So we want to send 20 to 30 Instagram DMs a day, but here's the key. They're still very personalized. You're then going to be commenting on these brands' posts first, using their name, mentioning something about their brand. This isn't no copy and paste bullshit. And on top of that, we then want to send 5 to 10 hyper personalized cold emails every single day. We want to go for smaller brands to begin with. This is key. And the reason why is because there are way more brands doing under 6 figures versus 7 figures. And these guys are massively underserved because big agency owners just wouldn't touch them with a barge pole, if I'm keeping it real. But this is your advantage, again, because by the time you stack 4 to 5 of these at 1.5 to 2K a pop, you are laughing. We want to target the brands typically that are doing anywhere between 10K a month to 80K a month in revenue. And this is just for your first few clients. This is super important. These type of brands, they usually consist of like the founder and maybe someone else, like an assistant that is kind of like managing things for them. And these guys, usually you will find that the owner is the one that is in the messages, or the owner will be checking the messages. And it's always easier to reach out to these guys. I then want you to scroll on TikTok and Instagram. Instead of consuming content like a glutton, I actually want you to start saving those brands so then we can create a hot list that we can outreach to. There are a few untapped niches that I want you to go after, such as home decor, electronics. You want to target these guys versus like jewelry and fashion because everyone's quite frankly touching jewelry and fashion. Now, I've got a pro tip for you. If you are bilingual, I want you to try and reach out to brands in other countries that speak the languages you speak. This is super untapped. So for example, if you can speak Spanish, you can message brands in Spain, Chile, Argentina, and these countries consistently rank in GDP per capita, meaning they can afford to buy your shit. Now, the reason this is your unique advantage is because most people can only speak English. Most people. I could only speak English. So I could only target the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, etc. For every 20 to 30 messages that you send per day, you can expect 4 to 6 people to respond. Of those people, you will then get 1 to 2 people that will message you positively, and then you'll probably end up booking 1 to 2 calls per week. Now, let me show you what this looks like. There are 2 ways that I would recommend that you start cold messaging prospects. One is via Instagram DMs and the other is via cold email. So for IG DMs, what I like to do is inject humor into the messaging. One thing that works and has worked well for me was a combination of GIFs and personalized videos or voice notes once you get a response. This is what the framework looks like. On day 1, you give them a follow. Day 2 to 4, you like and comment on a few of their posts. Then you comment on their latest story if they have one. Then day 5, you send the first DM as a pattern interrupt. Then you ask a question like, hey, does founder name see these messages? Then the next message is, I noticed issues that you've noticed, so pick 2. I recorded a quick video with all the source and all the fixes. Do you want me to send it over? If they don't reply, weave in some voice notes and do follow-ups. It's just that simple. When you do get a reply, you then ask, what's the best way to get this over to the founder? They give you a generic email like info@brandname.com. Just say amazing. I would love to make sure this gets watched. Does owner name check this inbox, by the way? Pro tip, what I would do is I would sign up to their email list, trigger their abandoned carts, and then see what needs improvement. Then you include this in the video. You are going to get people ignoring you. That's fine. That's just the game. The game is what the game is at the end of the day. You need to know that it's not personal. Just move on. No one cares about you or whether you've got a Klaviyo certification or any of that nonsense. They don't care. They only care about themselves. Now, for cold email, the strategy is a little bit different because cold email requires more research and more personalization. So we're still leading with value. We still want to stand out because we are not mass spamming people. Instead, we're going to focus on hyper personalized emails that prioritize quality over quantity. So look, I've been doing this for 6 years. I am not your average guru that bought a course and is now trying to push tactics from 2000 down your throat. No, to this day, I still drink my own Kool-Aid. I still use this method. And it's how I was able to work with brands like Nude Project, 2 Bouget's, MKI, to name a few. It was all through a personalized email, not some spam bullshit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you this framework with a real live example. When it comes to the cold email frameworks, we're going to be going over this entire structure that I've put together. And this is the best structure in order for you to actually get prospects to pay attention and then want to actually book a call with you. So we'll be looking at the subject line, we'll be looking at the source, your authority, who the F for you, the CTA, and then the PS. So I'm going to go through each and every single one of these so you understand. Now, when we look at the subject line, we want to keep it very, very simple. So lowercase and have a pattern interrupt. We want to have it less formal, and this is going to increase the opens. Now, with lowercase, it feels like an email from a friend when you think about it, right? Not an email from a marketer. And we have simplicity. So in regards to like the email subject line, what I've always found to work really well is just thoughts first name. So it would be thoughts John, for example. And this triggers curiosity loops, right? And it encourages the open, because if someone says thoughts, your name, or thoughts John, that's like, well, what's this about, right? It's going to trigger that curiosity for me to then open. Then personalization, obviously name, that creates micro ownership, and the brain sees its own name and must resolve the pattern. Next is the goal. The goal of the subject line is not to sell. The goal is to earn the open by sounding like a normal one-to-one conversation. Next is the source, right? So for the source, we want to point out 1 to 2 things that they could improve. People are more interested in their problems than your offer. So we want to start with the value, and starting with the value proves that, you're legit before you kind of introduce yourself. It also disarms the reader because it's not pushy, right? It's super helpful. It also creates micro pain that makes them want the solution. This is super, super important. You must give an insight that they can verify themselves within 10 seconds. This builds instant trust and credibility. This is very important, right? Because if you don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, or why you're doing what you're doing, there's going to be a point, and there will be a point, where the email script or the template that you use is just not going to work anymore, right? And if you understand the psychology and the framework, that's going to allow you to be able to recreate it based on this framework and based on this structure. The next thing is your authority. So you want to establish credibility, prove that this isn't spam, right? Because a lot of these people, they are getting a lot of these types of emails, and credibility only matters if it's framed around the problem you just highlighted. So for example, it's not going to be, I've worked with 50 brands. That's not what we're doing. We're not doing that. Instead, it's going to be, I recently helped a skincare brand fix the same pop-up issue, and they added 6,000 emails in 30 days. Can you see how that is infinitely better? Also, we want to avoid the word agency. This is actually a trigger word. A lot of e-commerce brands, they probably used to hearing, oh, I'm an agency, we do this. Like, no. Like I said in the previous videos, we want to position ourselves as an email marketing consultant. But in this case, we don't want to even use the word agency, because agency signals commodity, cheap freelancers, and long contracts. So consultant, working one-to-one with select brands. This is what we call premium framing. Super, super important. Now, who the F are you? This is super important, right? Humans trust specific people, not faceless companies. So you don't want to say, this is ABC Consulting, right? We don't want to do that. It should be, this is John with ABC Consulting, etc. So you must appear as a specialist and not a generalist, right? Exclusivity triggers desirability and scarcity bias. So you're not convincing them that you exist. You're just convincing them that you are worth paying attention to, because there's so many people that are trying to rob people of their energy and their attention. So it's super important that we understand this, right? Next thing is the CTA. So asking for a call is very high friction. You never want to start an email with, oh, can we jump on a call? Bro, I just met you. Like, I don't want to jump on a call with you. I don't know who you are. Why should I use my time to kind of entertain a conversation with you? So we're not doing that. So we're going to ask a question instead. This is what I've always found to work best. So a low friction micro commitment, and your question must be future paced, right? So what are they doing next? What do they want? What are they planning? These are super, super important things. And this moves their brain into problem solving mode. So your CTA should be so easy to respond to that they can do it with one sentence from their phone. Last but not least is the PS. So the PS is basically trained to filter automation. A specific PS breaks that pattern. It acts as a visual bait. The PS is the second most read line after the subject, and it creates reciprocity. If you put in effort, they feel inclined to respond. All that being said, let's see what this looks like in practice, okay? So I'm going to highlight these things so you can see. The subject line is thoughts, first name, as you can see, right? Then we say, hey, first name. Let's just say, hey, John. Was poking around brand this morning and 2 things jumped out. Again, we're leading with the value, right? First thing I said is your pop-up only asks for email. I said, if you split this into 2 emails, so email and SMS, you can 2 to 3x your captured leads without adding any traffic. So who doesn't want to 2 to 3x their captured leads without spending more on traffic? I then said your abandoned checkout didn't actually fire when I added items to cart. Didn't fire is like, oh shit, what happened here? Like, why is this not firing? And then I go on to telling them that alone leaves 8 to 12% of revenue on the table every single month. 8 to 12% is insane, right? Because if a brand is doing like 100K a month, that's 10K every month that they're literally just bleeding in revenue, right? So I said, quick one, fixing just those 2 would increase your repeat orders without touching ad spend. I said, for context, I'm an email marketing consultant who works one-to-one with select D2C brands doing 50K a month. I said, recently I helped similar brands. Let's say John was a jewelry brand. I could say, hey, like I worked with this other jewelry brand and I helped them grow email revenue from 18 to 42% in 90 days. So you can see there, I'm using that social proof. And I did this by tightening their capture plus core flows. Curious. This is going back to what we said here with the CTA. I'm not asking John, yo, John, can we get on a call? That's not what we're doing. Instead, I'm just asking John a very simple question. I'm saying, curious, what are you currently doing to increase repeat orders as we move into the slower months? Put my name and I said, PS, I noticed you guys had a recent collab with Gunner. I went to his concert last week and I saw him wearing a chain from your most recent collection. Looked even better in real life. This is a good cold email. Sells. This is where we need to understand the prospect inside out. You are not speaking, you are simply listening. I need you to listen to understand, not to respond. That's really the key here. And I need you to make sure that you record the call so you can go back later and understand what it is that's happening. You can use free tools like Fathom AI to record the call. Usually prospects are always fine with it. And you want to ask them, well, what are your pain points? How long have you had this problem? What's happening in your business right now? What are the gaps that are literally costing them with the current setup they have? We are not pitching. We are simply understanding whether we can help them or not. And it's important to preface this when you start the call. Then we get them on a second call. And we do this once we have gathered enough intel. Then we want to audit their current setup. And this should take no more than 2 days to do so because money loves speed and time kills deals. This is where we present the audit and absolutely everything that we found and we show them what it's costing them, because nothing, and I mean nothing, is more painful than the amount of money that you're missing out on as a business owner simply from not having the right systems in place. And then you make them an offer. For you as a beginner, you should be closing anywhere between 1 and 7 calls. That's totally fine. You're gonna suck. You're not experienced yet. That's cool. That's okay. Deal with it. Then what we can do is we can actually use ChatGPT to analyze our sales calls and analyze where we went wrong. And then after that, you can expect to close 1 in 5 and then 1 in 3. Pricing wise, we start at 1.5K per month per client. Once we hit 3 clients and we've gotten results, we can then raise that to 2.5K, etc. And then you can charge as high as 5K a month. It's that confidence that made me close my first client for 3.5K. Nothing more and nothing less. And also that I was willing to go above and beyond more than any other agency could and would. The next thing we're going to cover is how to price your first client. So we want to focus on ROI. What I did was build an ROI calculator. You can get someone on Fiverr to do this for you. And you want to show this to your clients on the call, exactly how much that they are missing out on. So for example, if a brand is doing 30K a month in online sales and you can generate them an extra 9K a month from email, then realistically speaking, getting them to pay you 1.5K per month is pretty much a no-brainer, right? For 1.5K a month, you're going to offer them 2 emails to their email list a week, 5 core email marketing flows, a pop-up, some reporting, and then weekly communication on a messaging platform like Slack, where you can keep everything organized. Do not, and I mean this, do not give clients your personal number or manage things on iMessage or WhatsApp. Recipe for disaster. For your first few clients, you will naturally do a little bit more than what you set out. And that's totally fine, because remember, we need to ensure we get that testimonial. And I'm not talking about some bullshit like, oh, John was great to work with. Nah, that's not the kind of testimonial we need. We need a testimonial that explains the exact results that you delivered, because at the end of the day, that's what happens. That's what matters. We don't want to price too low because it attracts bad clients, nor do we want to charge per hour or per email. That This is just bullshit. We don't want to do that. What I want to do now is I want to show you the different types of packages that you can share with prospective clients, right? And these packages are very, very intentional. This isn't like your Fiverr type of or Upwork type of, oh, like get 22 email campaigns and only pay $100 type shit. Like that's not what we're doing. There are actually two prices here. So there's two investments, shall I say. There's $1,500 and then there's $2,500. Obviously, we want to aim for this as a bare minimum, right? And this is just kind of like the option that we kind of dangle in front of the prospect, and we anticipate that they're probably not going to go for this. In fact, I will probably say like 1 in 5, they're actually going to go for this option. And I will explain to you like what these different options are and the deliverables as well. So the first one is what we call the email foundation build. And this is $1,500. So this is per month. And this is basically the essentials done right. And this is how you're going to pitch it, by the way. It's built for brands who want to start making money from email without overcomplicating things. Like it's very, very simple. You get the core pillars that every single profitable e-commerce brand needs. And that's the way that you want to pitch it with conviction. As you can see, I'm positioning this in a way that has high leverage. It's not just a laundry list of items that they get. It's not like a la carte menu. Like we're not doing that. They're going to get a high converting pop-up. They're going to get 2 consistent email campaigns every single week. They're going to get 5 core foundational automations. So these are email automations that will quite literally recover revenue whilst they're sleeping. They're going to get basic segmentation, so you're not blasting their entire email list. They're going to get clean mobile optimized designs, and they're going to get a simple performance summary every single month. And you're going to say that this is perfect if they're just getting started or they need to fix their email basics before scaling. And like I said, you're going to have majority of your clients going for this one, especially as a beginner, right? But the idea is to have choice. We want to create the illusion of choice by price anchoring, right? And you can do this as a beginner. It's usually reserved for people that are a little bit more advanced, people that have more experience. Although we know that most of them are going to go for this $1,500 option, we're actually anchoring that against this. We're doing this for 2 reasons. One, people like choice. We don't want to like pigeonhole people into just one option. You're going to have a higher conversion rate if you have 2 options. But then it's the leverage, it's the anchoring. It's showing them, well, you may as well just pay an extra 1,000 and getting way more means you're going to make more cash. And that's the way that we've positioned it here. One thing I did forget to include over here is that we would be having a call every single month and they're going to have access to be able to speak to you. Now for the revenue system build, this is going to be a full email revenue that is designed to scale your business. So it's going to scale their business month after month. You're going to get everything here plus 2 high converting pop-ups with A/B testing. They're going to get an extra weekly campaign because the more campaigns they send, the more chances they're going to make money. They're going to get 10 revenue building flows. They're going to get advanced segmentation based on behavior, products, and average order value. They're going to get continuous optimization and 30 days at that. They're going to get A/B testing on campaigns and subject lines. They're going to get weekly performance breakdowns, and they're going to get priority turnaround time. Who doesn't want priority turnaround time? So this is perfect if you are ready to automate more revenue, increase repeat purchases, and build a real retention system. So this is a little bit advanced stuff, but I did want to show you like side by side the way that you can anchor, the way that you can show something that, you know, is completely out of their range, but they're then going to see this as the better option for the prospect. This is something that they can digest a little bit more. If you just show them this, there's still going to be that room for objection and whatnot. So that's why we have it side by side like this. Now, when it comes to the proposal, the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to show the findings from your audit. Then you're going to explain how this is costing them money. Me personally, I wouldn't necessarily focus on showing them how to fix these things because that's what they're paying you for at the end of the day, right? But instead, you want to position it as this is what you're doing wrong. This is how much it's costing you and I can help you fix it. The investment should never be referred to as pricing. It is always an investment. And then we want to ensure that we get a commitment of at least 3 months minimum. This gives you a good buffer and security as well as buy-in from the client and enough time to get impactful results. So we usually present 2 options to the prospect, and this is how I would present it to them if I were you. So it becomes more value focused as opposed to a long list of commoditized deliverables, and then you end up competing with some guy on Fiverr from India. Like, we're not doing that, okay? Shout out my Indians, by the way. I'm no hate on Indians. But yeah, so in the first month, we are going to audit the entire setup from top to bottom and see what they are doing right versus what they are doing wrong. Then we're going to create the emails in advance for the month based on the data and what we found and the client's priorities. They might want to do some sales or promos or new products. We factor all of that in. Then you will work with them on the highest converting flow. So your welcome flow, abandoned cart flow, abandoned sign-in checkout flow and post-purchase flow. Then we are going to provide 2 updates every single week. One on Monday is fine and one on Thursday. You can pick the days, it doesn't really matter. And we're going to use this to tell them where we're at with things and anything that we need from them. Transparency is key here. So you need to be proactive as super important. Otherwise, you're going to lose the client. Once you have started working with your client, you're getting wins, positive feedback, you want to ask them for a testimonial. And the best way to do this is in the form of a client catch up. And then you let them know that you want to record it. 9 times out of 10, they are always happy to do so. You want to keep it casual and follow this type of format. So the first thing is you get them to state their name, their position within the company, and how long you've been working with them for. You want to ask them to let you know where they were before they started working with you and where they are now, and the money that is being made from email, the engagement rates, all that good stuff. Then you want to ask them what effect has setting email up properly had on them, and also working with an expert, what impact has that had on other areas of the business. Then we want to say, well, what would you say to anyone that just wasn't sure about getting help with email marketing or specifically working with me? And when I say me, I mean you. When I didn't know what to do when I first started, I really wish I had a support group or a community or a mentor to lean on, to be honest. I usually just looked at YouTube videos. Yeah, there were courses and I bought a ton of them. Trust me, believe you me, I bought a ton of them. But there was never really any real help or support. Then I started paying for access to mentors and support so I could troubleshoot and I could really level up and get to the next stage of business. The next thing that we're going to talk about is proof. Proof changes absolutely everything. The minute you get that first case study, you're going to start moving different. In the beginning, you can work with loads of different brands and then you can start to see which ones you got the best results for, which ones you had the most fun working with, and then you can narrow it down. Once you get results in any specific niche, I want you to start targeting brands in that specific niche, and then you can scale that up. You can increase prices, and then you can start targeting bigger brands. Super, super important. Naturally, you're going to find your confidence going up. It's going to be through the roof. You've got a little pep in your step. You know what you're talking about. You're talking with chest. Your closing becomes infinitely easier. You can then raise your prices after your first 3 clients. It's going to look a little bit like this. You're going to have client 1, $1,500 per month. Client 2, $1,500 per month. Bear with me. It's going to increase. Client 3, still $1,500 per month. Then here's where it gets wicked. Client 4, $2,500 per month. By this point, you got confidence and you got proof and you can justify raising your rates. But you need to always ensure the return on investment actually makes sense for your client. I see too many people saying, oh, charge this, charge that. Like at the end of the day, your client is going to churn if they can't afford it. Whether you've made them millions and zillions, and trust me, it's happened before. It's happened to me and it'll probably happen to you. Because later down the line, if that client runs into any sort of like financial issues or they're trimming costs or their accountant has said, oh, like you're spending too much on this, like you're going to be the first one to be cut out. It just is what it is, right? So here's the plan. Weeks 1 to 4, we're going to learn the skill to a 7 out of 10 level. That's copywriting, Klaviyo basics, and then sales confidence. Week 5 to 6, you're going to do outreach to 25 to 50 e-commerce brands in niches that you understand. And then by week 8, you close your first client for $1,500 a month. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to position yourself right, do consistent outreach, and deliver value even while you're learning. If you want me to walk you through this step by step, the exact templates, the sales scripts, how to deliver for your first client without looking like a beginner, I actually teach this to high achieving professionals. Just click the first link in the description below to learn more, and I'll see you over there.